The views and content expressed on the following program are provided solely for informational and entertainment purposes. They do not constitute legal advice. A podcast is not a substitute for retaining a competent, licensed attorney to advise you on your specific legal situation.
Break the business, play is work and work is play. Power in the creators, have fun along the way. Break the business, doing what it takes. Celebrate success and learn from the mistakes.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the show. It is time for Break the Business, where we empower indie creators and have some fun along the way. I'm Ryan Kairalla, and it is a pleasure to have you here this week. Oh my goodness, we have a lot of ground to cover. So many great topics this week. Great conversations to be had. Excited to be joined in the second segment by music executive Paula Park. Everything I've had a chance to read about Paula Park has made me very thrilled at the prospect of getting to interview her. Terrific music executive, beloved, well-respected, has worked on social impact campaigns for some of the biggest names in music. I imagine she's got some stories and some advice for us. So don't go anywhere for that. In the meantime, though, we got a lot of fun to have up until that interview. And we're going to do it with our co-host this week, Elisa Rockdock is here. Hey, Elisa.
Yo, what's up? Good to be back.
Good to be chatting with you. We got to get right into it, all right?
Let's
No
go.
time for pleasantries and goofing around and the how are yous. We got ourselves a packed agenda this week, all right? No filibustering. We got to get right into things.
Right to it.
The first thing I want to do with you, Elisa, is I want to try something a little different on this program. Something that I have not really done, which is, pretty amazing that in 400 some odd episodes to still be kind of trotting new ground on this show. But I want to try something that we've never done before because I was inspired with a recent entertainment industry experience I had recently to write like one of those Andy Rooney style rants about
Heavens.
something. And, I actually
So,
like,
for those listening, Andy Rooney was
Yeah,
a
right.
television personality.
old curmudgeon from, way before any of our Gen Z viewers and listeners were on this planet who would get, 3 minutes at the end of 60 Minutes. 60 Minutes is a news magazine TV show that young people also don't know about. Comes on after football. Football is a sport that you all kids don't watch anymore because esports is far more engaging to you. And you actually have a heart and soul and find football to be barbaric. Completely reasonable point of view. Anyway, Andy Rooney gives these rants where he just talks about something that he's passionate about. And I was passionate about something so much so that I actually put pen to paper. I wrote like I was running out of time and have this rant, and I just want to deliver it. And, since it's my show, I can do that. So here we go. Elisa, you know that trend on Twitter where people ask, what are the things that you agree with the boomers on that the boomers are right about?
Boy.
Restaurants needing to stop giving out QR codes instead of just giving you a real
Give me
paper menu.
An actual menu, yes.
Yes, we're all with the boomers on that. Well, I have another one where I think the boomers are 100% right, and that is the superiority of network television.
Oh, Boise.
No, I know, hot take, right? Lately, Elisa, I've gotten really into network television. Basic ass, uninspired, milquetoast, 7 different incarnations of Law and Order, network television. But Ryan, you say, streaming shows are where it's at. Brilliant, Emmy-winning television on Netflix, Prime, Hulu, what have you. The best writers and actors, they're all there now. It's better programming. And that may very well be. But you know what else the streaming services give you? Meager 10-episode seasons every 2 years, and then Netflix cancels your favorite show out of the blue because their stock went down 3 points, and getting a tax write-off is more valuable to them than resolving an end-of-season cliffhanger. But let me instead take you to a magical place where the content is plentiful and the hours of programming for you to watch is limited only by the members of Sheldon Cooper's family that they can wring mediocre spin-offs out of. Network bleeping television. You know what I'm watching right now every night, Elisa Rock Talk?
Go.
Chicago Med.
Oh, Oh, yeah.
And I will never run out of episodes of Chicago Med for as long as I live because it is on network television. 25 episode seasons, baby. And you know how many seasons Chicago Med has been on the air? 7 seasons. And if that seems like a lot, you should know that I actually just lied to you just now, and it's really been on the air for 10 seasons with absolutely no signs of stopping. And is Chicago Med good, you might ask? No, but it's there for you.
It's there for you.
And it's not going anywhere. Do you know what the S in Esipatha Merkerson stands for, Rock Doc? Stable.
That's
week
right.
after week, Chicago Med is there. And there's no complicated storylines, no multi-year hyper-serialized plots that never get resolved like you get with the streaming shows. On Chicago Med, you start at 9:08 and the whole story is tied up in a neat little bow by 9:51 when the resident psychiatrist played by Oliver Platt shows up to tell everyone that the patient that presented with mitochondrial disease actually just had a conversion disorder this whole time. Oh yeah, by the way, you heard me. Oliver Platt is on the show, and he's a delight. That's right. Universally beloved character actor Oliver Platt. The top layer of Elisa Rock Doc's Hear Me Out cake, Oliver Platt,
Facts.
can be found on network television. So let's all simplify our lives and settle into whatever 12-season basic bitch network TV show that Dick Wolf has cooked up for us. Let's watch NCIS in whatever municipality NCIS has decided to set up shop this fall. Because when it comes to picking your next show to binge, do you want a show that shows off or do you want a show that shows up? Do you want to be artistically fulfilled by narratively complicated drama? Or do you really just want a show where you can look at your phone the whole time and still have no trouble following the plot? Do you want stingy tech bro executives trying to gaslight you into thinking that 40 episodes is a complete series? Or do you want 180 hours and counting of Oliver Platt in a delightful lab coat and necktie combo? Get me 10 cc's of Chicago Med stat!
Characters welcome. Characters are welcome in this house. We are a burn notice house.
Oh, burn notice. That's the jam right there. But like,
Children yearn for the mines being burn notice.
I don't know why it took me so long to come to this conclusion. I can tell you, like, I have a rock solid marriage. Like, me and my wife, rock solid. The only thing that threatens to break us apart is not like the kid that we're raising or anything like that. It's the fact that like when she and I like try to get into a new show in streaming, we burn through that show in a week. And then we have like the fight of like what we're going to watch next. And like it creates like real tension in this house. But you know where this doesn't happen? Network television. Like you will never run out of episodes of Person of Interest.
Oh.
Yeah. And so like, I mean, you know, and don't you miss, like, I know you're a Trekkie like I am, Rock Dog. Yeah. Don't you miss like 27 episode seasons of Star Trek shows? And you know, like the cast like probably went through like all kinds of like physical medical issues because of the production schedules being completely unreasonable.
Yeah, there's no reason why any of that had to be collectively bargained out or anything by the union. But
oh no, how did this become an anti-union rant all of a sudden? I just want something on while I can look at my phone. That's all.
Yes, just something reliable. Not gonna lie, the scripts that I have been using in acting class and the kinds of auditions I aim for, give me these shows and give me intern number 6 on that show. You know what I mean? Like those are the kinds of residual checks.
Oh yeah.
That keep the Chipotle coming. You know what I mean? Like let's yes. Shouts to network television. May I have a awesome DA? I've literally been asked to get a DA wig, a young DA wig, so I could potentially be on one of these shows. They
could absolutely parachute you right in to Chicago Med as the offbeat, cantankerous trauma surgeon with the fire engine red hair that shakes up the place.
What if Abby but Puerto Rican?
What if Abby were Puerto Rican?
That's my girl.
I mean, oh my God, like absolutely. I mean, and every show needs one of those for sure.
That's network television and just giant box sets of physical media.
Well, there are two places, Rock Doc, where I know I can find acting that will put a smile on my face. One is whenever Oliver Platt shows up to do something psychiatric on Chicago Med. And the other is on the TikTok account of one James McNicholas, who has just made me smile lately because he's got this trend on TikTok right now where he does monologued versions of pop songs. And I mean, you and I, we were theater kids. So like we remember being in theater class and getting like this as an assignment, right? Like having to take like a pop song and then interpret it as a monologue. But this guy is S tier at it because not only are the monologues impeccably delivered, but he gets fully into character, costumes, makeup. Producer Lauren, do we have the video of him doing an interpretation of Crazy by Gnarls Barkley? Y'all got to check this out.
I've seen this. It's so good.
I remember when I lost my mind. It was something so pleasant about that place.
Ooh.
Even your emotions have an echo in so much space. And when you're out there, without care, boy, I was out of touch. But it wasn't because I didn't know enough. I just knew too much.
We have to let him get at the chorus.
So good.
Does that make me crazy?
Oh, goosies on my arms.
Crazy? Oh my God. Does that make me crazy?
All right, that's good. Can I tell you where this monologue would fit right in? Is
Joker Folia do.
What's that?
Joker Folia do.
Oh yeah, except he's not singing it. But no, that's a Doctor Who villain right there.
Yes,
absolutely.
Oh,
and
down to the mutton chops.
Oh, and the costuming absolutely helps with it. But like that monologue is not only Doctor Who villain, but that's like Doctor Who villain that the Doctor can't stop, right? That's like Nemesis level Doctor Who villain where the Doctor like can't figure out what to do with this guy, and like the sonic screwdriver is useless against him.
And my favorite thing about this is the amount of people in the comments being like, "This made me listen to this song in a completely different way." Like people just sort of like have their kind of favorite lyrics and stuff, but when you actually parse out the lyrics in this way, I'm like, yo, this shouts to Gnarls Barkley on some of this lyrical stuff. It's actually way deeper than a lot of people gave it credit for.
I didn't think of it that way. Because like my original thought was like when I heard that he was doing these videos, it's like, oh, this is going to be kind of like a parody of it, where it's going to make us all like, by kind of being overly serious with these monologues, he's going to be lampooning these lyrics. But I think you're right. It's more of an homage, right? Mm-hmm. By interpreting these pop songs so powerfully, it actually reminds us that these are actually kind of amazing lyrics with a lot of meaning behind them that might get lost in a pop song, but when they're dramatically interpreted, it's laid out there for us to see and hear.
Yeah, as a lyricist, it does, make me a little bit happy to kind of see these kinds of interpretations breaking loose. I imagine maybe not every song could be as eligible for this. I would love to see how he takes on like a Louie Louie. Um,
Or
you know.
tequila.
yeah. Yeah.
It's a cool thing, and I encourage people to check out this guy's TikTok account because he's done a bunch of these, right? Like the Gnarls Barkley one is my favorite, but there's quite a few bangers in there, and I'm all for highlighting a terrific creator. And staying on the topic of creators on TikTok, I want to kind of pick your sociologist, pop culture scholar brain about something that I've noticed on the platform in the past couple weeks it's kind of irked me a bit. You and I, Elisa, we've done shows where we've on the theme of like, don't be an a-hole to creators on TikTok. You know, the idea that like the act of creating and putting something in the world is the ultimate act of vulnerability. It is, you know, it's laying your soul bare. And, you know, being a good neighbor, being a good person sort of dictates that if it's not for you, you know, keep your mouth shut. And if you can't keep your mouth shut, you know, say some snarky things to your friends on the group chat, but you don't have to hurt the feelings of actual creators who, shocker, are human beings and they absolutely do read this stuff. And the most recent example of this where I immediately got that irk feeling was in the recent treatment of how the members of the band Lawrence have been treated with the release of their new song, What You Want. And you know, and just like how a lot of the negativity that's getting, one of which, you know, surprises me on one hand because like I think it's a perfectly fine song and it shows off how amazing of musicians Lawrence is, but it also kind of surprises me because like TikTok birthed Lawrence. Like Lawrence owes a lot of their success to being kind of a grassroots rags to riches TikTok story. The TikTok followers made that band what it is. And like you would think that the viewers on that platform would sort of take ownership of this band and want to root for them. But no, this song comes out and just so much hate that this band is getting. And I don't understand it.
So this is what happens, Ryan, when a niche act breaks the For You page containment barrier and reaches critical mass. And when those folks happen to be, well, what I do believe that people are coming up against is what is considered theater kid / cringe, essentially one and the same energy that they are receiving from this. Now, this is not to take away from the lead singer's vocal talents, because I imagine that like she has one of the most powerful voices I have ever heard.
Gracie Lawrence, my God.
Amazing. I have, you know, also heard this idea. It's this theater kid cringe Target commercial energy. These are accusations that are also lobbied against folks like Drake, where it's like you make music that, you know, can make us dance and be in Target commercials, but their folks aren't necessarily seeing a kind of more quote unquote deeper level to it. What it is essentially, it is high level of performance, high level of execution, high level of theater kid energy. And a lot of that just does not mesh well with a lot of folks, because that, for a lot of folks, tends to read as inauthentic Lea Michele energy. It's very like Gleek energy. It's all of these things. It's all of that folks are reacting against. Now, I say folks are reacting against. This is also what happens when social media happens and you feel obligated as a creator to have an opinion about every single thing, or else you're not going to show up on people's For You page. So what is the coolest way to be the coolest kid on TikTok but to shove the theater kid in a locker digitally? So that's kind of what's happening here.
Well, I do want to highlight one thing that you mentioned there, because it is one of the criticisms that the discourse has lobbed against this song, What You Want, is that it's been accused of being, it's commercial music. It's, oh, I would hear this in a J.C. Penney ad or something like that. And if you are a loyal viewer and listener of this show, you should absolutely subscribe to The View that being a quote unquote commercial song is not a criticism. My sincerest wish for every musician that comes into contact with this program is that you write at least one song that can find its way into being the song that every department store wants to put in their commercial, because in 2024, that's the only damn way left to make money off your music, because there's nothing left coming from streaming services, and the record labels, if you're signed to one, are going to sap every other source of income. The last kind of pure, unadulterated source of a financial windfall for most indie artists is if you can get your music placed in a TV commercial. So we really need to not be crappy to artists who might write a song that happens to get placed in one of these ads. Like, come on. I mean, one of the harshest critiques that I would have of like Gen Xers and millennials in terms of how we see pop culture is that we use the term sellout like a bad thing, right? Our generations invented that, like that it was somehow, you were somehow less than, that you were somehow less impressive of a creator if, God forbid, you were actually able to make a living off of your art. And I want better for Gen Z. I don't want Gen Z to fall into that trap of thinking that there's this artistic integrity box and this able to pay your rent box and never the twain shall meet. Like, let's be a little more conscious and better than that.
Yes, hard agree. And I think that, you know, one of the things that I tend to sort of get wrapped up in when these arguments tend to happen is that as an artist, I obviously hope that Gracie and the team have excellent support and a good team behind them and good mental health support, because being on social media and being the subject of being called cringe, etc., as somebody who has had an entire Twitch chat just completely eviscerate me because they thought my laugh was fake. These are the kinds of things that people are going to get all the time as a result of putting out a certain kind of energy, knowing that your art does not have to please everybody. And that just because something has broken containment and there is a genre of folks that do not vibe with you, remember everything that you have done so far to get you to this point and let them be sick of you. Because then that means that you're getting placement.
I want to give producer Lauren a chance to weigh in on this, because I think between the three of us, she has most recently seen Lawrence in concert. I imagine that was a transcendent experience for you, producer Lauren.
It was. I mean, they're incredible. And I would not normally make an 8-hour round trip to see the show. And the video that we're discussing, interestingly enough, was the first video I saw of them when I was introduced. My boyfriend said, "You've got to check out this band." And you mentioned theater kids, stuff like that's exactly what I felt. I was like, man, it feels like I'm back in New York. I can feel that New York camaraderie, that energy of like artists working with artists. And it wasn't just about the song and the vocals, which she's amazing vocally, but there was a sense of artists that respect the artists they're working with. There was a nod to every other performer in that room. They featured every one of them. Every one of them had their social handle, their name. Like, they took the time to edit that into the video. And it doesn't necessarily seem like a lot, but anybody who's made that content, like, it takes extra time to feature each of those artists. And so there was an appreciation and an energy from watching that video that had me respect not just their music, but them as artists and business people. And I came out going, wow, I love them. And so when you sent me something saying they were polarizing, I was like, what? And then it was interesting because the polarizing was, you're either in this like absolute adoration group, or like this, they're destroying my life, and if I have to hear them again, I'd rather like stab something into my ear. And you're like, wow, that's a big contrast. But then I realized, like, I'm part of that contrast. Like, I'm not a middle grounder. I watched the video and went, I'm over here. So I can't deny that there could be something polarizing. And as a theater kid, you're used to being the one that's polarized.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is just another one in a long line of Meghan Trainors and, oh gosh, I forget that band
Adam Lambert
with Queen Herbie
and
as the rapper. Oh, Carmen. It's just
I
another
loved
one
Carmen.
in a long line of we are going to be exceptionally good at covers and people will experience us as cover artists, and then the minute that we show up with potential original music, it is going to be potentially graded on a higher scale, especially compared to the actual musicianship that is on display. And this is what happens sometimes. Sometimes theater kids might write a cheesy lyric or two, but it's not for everyone. But the algorithm loves extreme opinions and hates nuance. Nobody is going to watch a TikTok of me being like, yeah, I get it's not for you.
It was all right. Yeah.
That's not going to do numbers.
Right. That's the same problem with all media, social media, every media. Like the problem is that in order to get people to watch, it has to be attention grabbing enough that they want to watch. It's if it bleeds, it leads, right? Like we don't watch the other cars on the road, but as soon as there's an accident, everybody slows down to stare at that car. It's the same thing. Like we don't want our attention on the weather every single day of our life. But when there's a storm coming, we watch the Weather Channel like it's glue. But you don't want to pay attention to the weather every day. But if you're running the Weather Channel, you need to make the weather sound like something you need to listen to every day, or no one watches their show. And so you've got, this exactly like you're saying, you've got people who are just going, I am going to come up with the most extreme thing possible, because if you're not afraid, or if you don't feel like you have to hear what I'm going to say, then why are you wasting your time listening to me? But everything can't be an emergency.
I get that argument when you're talking about people creating videos, right? You got to make something that the algorithm's going to reward. And so that means like, if that means being a jerk to Lawrence, then they're going to be a jerk to Lawrence. But how does that explain the a-hole commenters, right? Because most of what I'm reading is not like negative videos about the band, which I have seen a lot of lately, but it's just like when you read any post about Lawrence, or just even Lawrence's music video, you see a bunch of really vitriolic stuff that if I was a member of that band, I would be devastated to read. Even if it was coated with like a bunch of positive stuff around it, just reading any one of those comments would be heartbreaking. Like I was heartbroken reading those things, and I'm not in the band. Like just like secondhand, empathy for them. Like
because we're theater kids.
Because we're theater kids, so it is kind of a dig at us too.
We are getting splash damage from this, because it basically goes back to every single time we've ever hosted a thing and have been too much or too big, and I think people are scared of that kind of expression because they themselves potentially cannot express it. That's why people admire performers, and sometimes the hate comes from outside the club.
But there's also a sense of they're listening, right? Because it's a love it or a hate it, or there's no such thing as bad press kind of a concept, but like they're not skipping over the video. They're not going, oh, I don't want to listen to Lawrence, they drive me nuts. They're listening to the song. They're commenting on things happening in the song because, love it or hate it, their music is making people pay attention, right? And so it's hard as an artist to listen to bad comments, but at the same time, you've got to remind yourself, you just had millions of people watch your video. And if 500,000 of them hated it, you know what? They still sat there and listened to it, took the time out of their day to comment on it, to give a spin, an opinion, or whatever. But like, they listened to you. They paid attention to what you had to say.
I hope that they are healthy enough emotionally to adopt that perspective. Yes. It is not an amount of perspective that I would ever ascribe to a theater kid.
No, absolutely not.
No, but theater adults, once you get there,
if they're
theater adults,
if they're really theater kids, if there are 999,999 comments that are positive, they'll find the one negative one, and you won't be able to talk to them at the cast party afterward.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, Lauren, do us a favor. See if you can track down Paula Park for us. I'm gonna
Yes.
because I think we still need to have a guest in the second segment. And in the meantime, while we see where our friend Paula Park is, I want to get a career update from you, Elisa Rock Talk. It is our favorite segment whenever you are here to let us know how things are going on in your own right as an indie creator, because you're doing your thing, and you always have some cool updates for us that we can learn some lessons from. What's been going on lately for you?
So lately, let's see. I think I did my last hit here in this new apartment. So still here. Haven't been kicked out of this one yet. And if you are anywhere in Orange County, New York, or somewhere in the region of the Carolinas, and still listen to terrestrial radio, potentially, then you will have an opportunity to hear me sell you a variety of goods and services over the next couple of months. So I did a couple of radio ads over the last couple of weeks, and it's always a really fun experience. Actually get out of the house and put pants on, so that's nice.
So like you went to like a studio instead of just doing something in your apartment?
Yeah, it's really great. And I was worried that, because sometimes you get the choice. Would you like to record from your home studio, or would you like to come in? And I feel bad saying I would like to come in, because then I'm like, I'm making somebody put pants on and drive to a thing. And like,
Clem Fandango has to show up,
Clem Fandango has to show up. And actually, the engineers are like, we get so much better quality control and everything in the control room with all of the fancy stuff that we actually prefer it when talent comes in to do the thing. So I'm like, all right, cool. Phew. Because I like the opportunity to get out of the house, real-time feedback where you don't have to deal with some kind of Zoom or Skype delay is awesome. And the energy is great. And the second radio ad that I did was for a wireless company in the Carolinas. And that one I was playing off of a fellow actor. And so like that experience of being able to bounce back and forth with someone directly in front of you is really fun too. So yeah, I'll be on your radio airwaves at some point in the near future in Orange County, New York, and somewhere in the Carolinas. Of course, I never do anything where I can actually like experience anything or show my mother so she can be proud of me. But one of these days.
Well, put that lady in a car, drive her out to the Ozarks, so that get your little like handheld radio out and just wait until it comes on. I mean, yeah, exactly. John Cusack in Say Anything. Yeah, for the Gen Zers, Say Anything's a John Cusack movie where
until a dispensary ad pops up. What? Another thing is I recently started because I miss LiveJournal and I wanted to make it everybody else's problem. I started a newsletter. I started a Substack because the only way to get updates from your fellow folks is to follow each other's newsletters. So I started one. So you can find that at elisarockdoc.substack.com, and it's called the Rock Doc Grimoire. The Grimoire is a sort of magical book of spells and other useful references for witches. And this is basically a page out of my grimoire that I send every couple of weeks or so, when I remember, of just things that I find magical from time to time, things that I'm playing recently that I love, recent music that I've listened to that I want to share with folks, as well as career update stuff. But I save some of the good stuff for the show. I'm not
much appreciated.
Yeah.
I mean, look, if you're starved for content on the platform and you need like 800 words about why network TV is still awesome, you are more than welcome to Control C and Control V my rant from earlier in this segment. Happy to share the wealth.
But yeah, so just sending that off and then getting my kind of audiobook chops in. If you go to elisarockdoc.substack.com and you're not the reading text type and you're more of the audiobook type, I record kind of little, almost like maybe 4 to 5 minute versions of each little newsletter attached to each episode. So you can also hear the dulcet tones. Doing that.
I like this.
Yeah.
it plays to your strengths so well. And for those of us who who've been on the bandwagon since the beginning and are quite familiar with the glory of your live journal era, we're so excited, to bring you and the written word back in, doing some of the audio stuff too. This is going to be a blast. I think you are well suited for Substack. That's going to be fun.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and it's definitely fun. It's a way to get my writing out there, because having written for a lot of places that are now defunct and can only be found on the Internet Archive, if you wanted to find examples of my writing, it's it's nice to be able to get sort of fresh versions of my thoughts out there. So yeah, I don't know if you are into what it is that I might be playing, watching, reading, experiencing, etc. Then another little something to hit your inbox that isn't necessarily spam.
I dig.
Yeah. And then if we want to tie into your previous co-host.
Oh yes, music. Yes.
Week. One thing that I am, and that I try to remind myself of, is a musician and a singer and a songwriter with a band, in addition to being an actor. And I'm so excited. I always love it when Bill Bolden down Upright gives us a call, and we released a song for the Manic Episode album called "Look What I Made Me Do." And it was a really, really fun project. I get something different from them every time they come to me with a project. And we decided to write a little song about self-sabotaging behavior, which I'm very familiar with.
Yeah. To remind the viewers and listeners who didn't catch our episode last week when we had Bill Bolden on as a guest, one of our favorite friends of the show around here. Bill's been on the show a number of times and has also worked with Elisa Rockdock a number of times on their music projects. And it's always a match made in heaven anytime Bill and Elisa and Evan get together and make some wonderful music. Bill's latest release is Manic Episode, which is a 12, 14 track album, something like that. That basically is like a musical chronicling of what it's like to go through a manic episode. Even just the creation of this seems kind of, manic in itself, in that, as loyal listeners of this show know, Bill just finished a rather substantial album project of 60 songs.
Yeah.
And, less than a couple months later, puts out another, full 12-track LP, collaborating with artists like you. I mean, that is prolific. And the end result is pretty awesome. I very much enjoyed your song with Bill. That one came out quite well.
Thank you very much. I managed to cram a couple of family mottos in there in the lyrics to my verse, and I would say, I don't know, it's one of my favorite versions of Evan's guitar tone on that track, definitely. And hey, if you ever wanted to hear me cackle maniacally over a guitar solo, this is the track for you.
Oh,
Very fun.
That's exciting. I still remember the track that you and Evan did for Bill's last album, "We're Doomed, We're Dancing."
Oh, so fun.
I mean, it's one of the all-time he didn't have to go so hard moments where Evan and Elisa did one track of a 60-track quintuple album for Bill Bolden. It's a 60-second song. Every song is 60 seconds long. It's just meant to be one quick thing that passes through and then you go right to the next song. It's not the kind of thing where you got to put your whole ass into the recording.
Oh.
But guitar player extraordinaire, your husband, Evan Lamb, doesn't half-ass anything. And somehow in this song, which is only 60 seconds long, manages to just light the world on fire with this guitar solo, blows the doors off the recording studio, I imagine. And it just I'm still in awe of how amazing of a performance that was.
I think that was his first take. That was a single take that he did. And it was one of the first that he did on that solo. I have the recording of when he was sort of tracking stuff, and then you can actually see me cover my mouth while I'm recording it because I don't want to make any sound that's going to potentially mess him up, because I'm like, oh, this is the one. This is the one. Let me not ruin it. And sure enough, he's like, I don't know, I might have another couple in me. And no, sorry, nothing replaced that first one. That one take absolutely did it. And he keeps doing it every time. I love that man.
I mean, it's just I just love watching and listening to amazing musicians be amazing. And I think that's one of the things that endears me to Lawrence, is that like it just seems like they're having a lot of fun out there. And to me, like, that's one of the highest pieces of praise that I could ever ascribe to a band. And above and beyond, of course, writing a song that gets in a TV commercial, because again, that's the effing dream right now in 2024. But the other is, like, if you have a band where it looks like everybody is having a good time and that they're all friends, and you feel like after the show is over, they're hanging out and like playing board games together, you can imagine, like, that's wonderful. Like that's like a band that like anybody in the world would want to be in. And so, like, how can you not root for a band like that? Even if they put out a song that's not for you, like, just their vibe should make you want to go, you know what? I'm going to keep my mouth shut about this one and not be an a-hole, because they seem delightful.
No, haterade, unfortunately, is both delicious and habit forming. And it's once you kind of develop once you develop a strong opinion on something, it's hard to be known for anything else other than having strong opinions on the internet. And I think a lot of people have lost the capacity to keep their inside thoughts inside. But it's one of those things where, yes, absolutely, there is no room for nuance on the internet. To critique something always has a negative effect, and there's like no room for the word constructive in there. And I think it is an interesting and kind of dangerous thing to have folks equate things like joy and happiness and skill to things like inauthenticity and be suspect. And I also think that it's also people that are maybe decrying something that looks maybe for them a little too polished. Maybe sometimes you can be so good at your instrument that it instantly breeds this kind of distrust. That there aren't enough seams, there isn't enough rawness. But even then, any kind of rawness that you would see on social media is also manufactured. And I think once we kind of step back, I mean, like, clutter is an art these days, and I think we need to step back from the idea that true art is painful and angry and somehow full of raw, cynical, nihilist emotion. That is not all that art can be. Yeah. You can also like have fun and like be high on life on stage. And experience that kind of unbridled joy. And I think as long as Lawrence can stay secure and fall in love and stay in love with that process of performing with their people and performing on stage, everything else is static and noise. So I hope that's where they can kind of keep their focus, because it is brutal out there, y'all. There's a reason that I haven't kind of stepped into that kind of foray in a minute, because it's happening to Chapel Roan. They will build you up and they will eat you alive the minute that you decide to make some sort of stance for yourself. The same people that build you up love to see you fall. So as long as, hopefully as long as you as an artist, whomever you are out there, keep in mind that the process and the way that you feel making your art is the most important thing, and not what anybody else has to say about it. Easier said than done, because I'm a theater kid and I thrive on external validation. I am Tinkerbell. If you don't clap, I will die. So, what are you going to do?
Yeah. I want to give a little quick programming note for the viewers and listeners out there. Let me tell you what's going on right now. We have misplaced Paula Park. Yeah, no, and that actually, I mean, I'll tell you, like, straight up, like, that kind of breaks my heart a little bit. I hope we can find her if she's around and can, like, pop in maybe at the tail end of the show, because I really like her story and would love to hear about some of the stuff she does on the social impact side of things. But assuming that we cannot track her down by the end of the broadcast, here's what I would like to do, Elisa.
Ooh, okay.
This is wildly unfair. I am putting you on the clock, but these are special circumstances, all right?
Okay.
I want to go to break here. And so that gives you like 2 minutes. And what I would like for you to do, if you could, is if in 2 minutes you could track down the lyrics to a pop song that you think you could dramatically interpret for us, like, get your Google machine out. And then maybe we could do some James McNicholas dramatic readings, because I actually have one that I have chambered that I think I could do. Now, if you're telling me right now, like, this is not enough time, you're being a jerk right now, Ryan, that's cool. Don't worry. But if you think you can do it, we'll come after the break. We'll do some of these dramatic readings. Maybe producer Lauren will do one as well. We'll talk a little bit more about this Lauren story, because I think there is a lot more threads we can pull in this, because I think it is endlessly fascinating, and it's a story about this band, but it's also a story about kind of the way we perceive art in the 21st century.
Yes.
And I think between that, we can probably get to the end of the broadcast. So
Right. Love it.
let us take a quick break, and we'll see what we do after that break here on Break the Business. Break the Business is presented in cooperation with Ryan A. Kairalla, PA. Ryan A. Kairalla, PA is a law firm providing transactional entertainment legal services, including contracts, business formation, commercial law, copyright, trademark, and more. Ryan A. Kairalla, PA, Miami, Florida. rkpalaw.com.
Streaming services for Break the Business provided by LEK Entertainment. LEK Entertainment is a full-service entertainment company offering everything from consultations to full-scale events and productions, including audio and video productions, voiceovers, staged theatrical productions, script and music development, and streaming services. For more information, visit lekentertainment.com. LEK Entertainment wants to help you bring your story to life.
Thanks for supporting Break the Business. If you have a question or topic that you want us to discuss, email us at breakthebusiness@gmail.com. You can follow the host, that's me, on Twitter at Ryan Kair, and you can follow the show at the BTB Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the show on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook, and on all major podcast platforms. And now, let's get back to the show. Welcome back to Break the Business, everybody. Ryan Kairalla here with Elisa Rockdock and producer Lauren. Just having a grand old time, loving the topics this week. This has just been a blast. I love having you on as a co-host. We love all of our co-hosts around here. I love all my children equally, but I know that with Elisa Rockdock,
we can vamp.
We can roam and we can vamp and we can cover a wide range of topics. We can do serious, hard-hitting sociological stuff. We can get like really goofy with pop culture, and I know you can play in all time zones, and I very much like that about you. As we were talking about the Lawrence story, Elisa, I'm reminded of something that you once said. I can't remember who you were quoting here. It might have been like Will Wheaton or something, where you talked about like why you don't need to, like, if you don't like something, you don't have to like be critical about it just because you don't like it. I think it was like the quote was like, shutting the F up is a free action.
Yes.
It just, and maybe it's just age, right? Because I feel like 10 years ago, Ryan, if he doesn't like something, he's posting on Facebook about it. He's tweeting about it. He can't help himself. But now, like, Ryan, that is just getting way too close to 40 for his comfort. I find like I'm shutting the F up a lot more often, and it's brought me peace. It's brought me happiness. I find comfort in the fact that, like, knowing that the people who made the thing that I don't like are human beings and they are spared my unnecessary vitriol, and that brings me some comfort and joy. Like it is, my hope that like shutting the F up as a free action can just be something that's spread amongst the countryside so that it's just a little bit easier to be a creator, because it's so damn hard out there. Like, it's already hard enough. And we do whole shows about how hard it is out there for creators without you making it just a little bit harder. By just because you don't like something, you then make the next leap of, I need to let that creator know that I don't like that something, instead of just shutting the F up or telling your friends in the group chat.
If you wanted to make that kind of sentiment known, you used to have to put a pen to paper and then make it legible and then put it in an envelope and then pay postage and then find some address for some fan club somewhere. And then somehow make that heard. There is way less friction for lots of things. There are way less friction when it comes to a lot of folks having access to the internet and having access to a microphone and a lot of things that maybe we were not necessarily able to learn about each other across the world if we only had to potentially rely on mainstream media sources. Lots of good things about social media, sure. But I have seen more people, especially like of my generation, that maybe like remember it's sort of pre-social media time, and are kind of seeing the rise and the consequences thereof, and are not liking what they see. The idea that maybe not everybody needs a microphone is a sentiment I'm seeing pop up just a lot more. The idea of just like, you don't have to get that thought off. You don't have to get that tweet off. You really don't. You really don't. There is so much less friction to create, but there is also so much less friction to create havoc.
Yeah.
And it's addictive. You get people agreeing with you. The pylon is addictive. Feeling like you're a part of an in-group. You don't want to be part of the cringe out group. You want to be part of the cool kids that are brooding and miserable and it's not even a sort of like, you hate life if you don't like this, because like, I'm not necessarily going to be adding these folks to my music library anytime soon, although they did a nice cover of Take You for a Ride with the 8-bit big band. That was very, very excellent. Like, yeah, don't add them to your library. I don't know. It's a lot more, it's a lot easier to make the internal thoughts external without folks questioning whether that can have a consequence. And also social media leads to a lot of dehumanization of the other. As much as we see each other, knowing that so much is curated and artifice, you almost have this kind of built-in dehumanization of the other person on the other side of the screen, especially with anonymity, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. It just makes it a lot easier for you to do things without the feeling of direct consequences. And it sucks. Dr. Melendez's opinion is sucks.
Well, now that we know how much of an act of courage it is and how terrifying it is to put your performances out into the world and leave them vulnerable to the harsh critiques of others, that is exactly what we're going to do right now. In honor of James McNicholas's awesome TikTok video series in which he is doing dramatic interpretations of pop songs, we are going to, right now, as we close out the show, try our hand at doing our own dramatic interpretations of pop songs to see how we can do this. Now, please understand a few things on the front end. We have not heavily rehearsed these things. Nope. We don't have costumes. Mainly this whole thing is just being prompted by the fact that we can't find our guest this week and we have some minutes to fill. So, be nice is all I'm saying. Also, in my particular case...
Don't be nice and thank you for the engagement. Ayo.
Ayo. Another disclaimer that I think is important is you might be hearing from, I don't know if producer Lauren is doing one, but I know Elisa Rockdock, I believe you're going to be doing one of these. The other two people that you are going to hear from, professional working actors. Ryan Kairalla, not those things. Has not acted since he was, I don't know, 15 years old, playing in the Fantastics in a high school production. Okay.
yeah.
So
Yeah, you could do that.
let's, have a sense of perspective when we compare, the amateurs acting performance to the two very talented ladies that also share this program with me. That being said, do you want to go first, Rock Doc? Do you want me to go first? Do you want me to go first and hopefully maybe then we run out of time and then you don't have to go? What are we thinking? Ladies first?
I'll go.
Yes.
Sure. Right. And I have to find my moment before.
I'm liking this. This is like maybe an Elisa go, Lauren go, and that's all the time we have today on Break the Business. Could be. I'm liking that. Not to make Rock Doc nervous here, Lauren, but maybe we isolate her, give her the single cam on this, or maybe
okay.
at least.
Am I in
Oh,
frame?
now we're talking. All right.
Am I in frame? Do I have my light?
Very much so. This is exciting.
Man, it's a hot one. It's like 7 inches from the midday sun. I hear you whisper and the words melt everyone but you. Stay so cool, my muñequita. My Spanish Harlem Mona Lisa. You're my reason for reason, the step in my groove. And if you said this life ain't good enough, I would give my world to lift you up. I would change my life to better suit your mood because you're so smooth. It's just like the ocean under the moon. It's the same as the emotion that I get from you. You've got the kind of loving that can be so smooth. So give me your heart. Make it real. Or else forget about it.
Oh, an absolute tour de force, Elisa Rock Doc. That was wonderful for two reasons. One, the performance was incredible. That was James McNicholas quality interpretation of Smooth by Rob Thomas and Carlos Santana. Just, mwah, chef's kiss. The other reason why that was good is in the time that you delivered the monologue, I believe Paula Parks showed up.
Hey!
So I might be getting a reprieve from having to do my performance. If we can get Paula set up, if we can get her camera and mic set up, we got about 3-4 minutes left in the show. And I would like very much if we can connect her, producer Lauren, to spend those 3 or 4 minutes chatting with Paula Park. Because I'd rather get 3 minutes or 4 minutes than nothing, because I think she's wonderful. And I really don't want to have to do my monologue. And so this
There
is
will
going to
be no sound check or video.
No.
Once I say her up, we're just throwing her in.
We'll do it live. F it.
You're live.
I love it. Poor Paula's backstage going, I don't know what I just got myself into. What is happening right now?
Pretty convenient.
Yeah.
Of this to have happened, Ryan. Interesting.
Yep. While you were actually delivering your monologue, I was Venmoing Paula Park to get her to come into the show, so to spare me from having to do my monologue. Yeah. I mean, I don't even know if we have her camera hooked up. Do we have her mic going? What's the Do we just want to put her on the air, producer Lauren, and see what happens? Is she okay with that? I think she's still trying to get her camera set up. Boy, this is exciting. I love this show so much sometimes.
See, network television, live television. This is what you miss when you just.
We have to go, Paula,
binge
can
all
you
the time.
hear us?
Paula, can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Yay!
Wait, this is a radio show first and foremost. We don't
Yeah.
even.
That's
I
right.
can definitely hear you. I'm in the back of a TV studio in the dark. So I feel like it will be creepy if you see me, but I can definitely be on.
We'll take Paula Park in whatever incarnation we can have her. We got a few minutes before we have to go off the air and lose radio, but I'm going to take what I can get here. I think we do see some visual there, I guess.
We did. She's totally there. We see the dark backstage. We're going back to the theater kid setting. We know what this is like.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm so sorry, you guys. I'm so sorry.
No
This was a
problem.
last minute. You know how it goes.
We're going to take it. All right. So just to quickly let people know, she is a LA and Sao Paulo based music executive. She has done social impact campaigns for some of the biggest names in music, including Demi Lovato's Reproductive Rights Initiative and Quavo's Anti-Gun Violence Project. Follow her on Instagram at PE Park. This is Paula Park. Paula, I'm intrigued by you doing social impact campaigns for artists. And one of the things I'm curious about is when you do one of these campaigns, what's the interactions with the artists like? How much of it is you trying to ascertain their vision and bring it to life? And how much of it is just you communicating to them what they have to do to get their project off the ground?
That is such a good question. I feel like, first of all, thank you for having me on. And I'm so sorry, you guys. I love the end of the monologue. I'm so sorry I missed most of it. Um, I will say it really is a mix and it depends on every artist. Every artist is different. I feel like for the more established artists, there's definitely a lot of guidance from their end of, and just like more understanding on what they're comfortable with, what they're looking for. Definitely part of the job is to try to understand, what these artists want their legacy to be beyond music and try to make that happen, right? So there's a lot of input that comes from them. And just like by working in these accounts, you kind of know the types of initiatives that they're looking for. If they're really like Quavo, for instance, was really looking to build a whole foundation. Demi also has her foundation, but mainly like working with a lot of different initiatives, really at the cross section of music and entertainment. So we did, Swine was her reproductive rights song at the 1 year mark of the fall of Roe v. Wade. So it just really depends on each client, I would say.
I can definitely dig that. And I love the fact that, particularly now in more modern times, we're seeing more and more artists find their voice and
Yeah.
speak out on issues that matter to them. But, I'm old enough to remember when the Dixie Chicks, for example, back when, Elisa and I were in high school and the Dixie Chicks were trying to make public statements, and what they were hearing back from a not insubstantial portion of the public was the shut up and sing argument. What do you say to those critics out there who say that artists shouldn't be, engaging in this kind of stuff, that they should be just making music that entertains us, that gives us an escape from the world around us?
Yeah.
What's
Yeah,
kind of your
there's
feeling with that?
I think, I think there are types of artists for every taste. I certainly feel more passionate and committed to the artists that do want to honor that kind of social and cultural responsibility that comes with being a public figure. um I think it's a misunderstanding of the power of music to say that artists are just entertainers. They're certainly cultural leaders, especially at this time where there's so much, there's this lack of trust with a lot of the institutions and other types of leaders that we have out there. I feel like artists really do are vessels for pushing a lot of the messaging that people need to hear. And I do think they have this responsibility at the end of the day of like shaping culture, shifting mindsets. A lot of political change actually is preceded by music ever since ever. So I think it's a short-sighted view of what the potential that artists can have in culture. But I certainly understand. I understand where people come from. um I think there are different ways of going about trying to enact change, and certainly being an activist and public speaking and all of those things is just one way of doing it, right? A lot of these artists that typically feel comfortable in taking it to the public stage and addressing an issue publicly also have done a lot of work behind the scenes as well. And so I think change comes in a lot of different forms. And but I can definitely understand the public that feels that way.
Yeah. For those artists that are kind of inspired, especially, considering literally just motions at the world, everything happening, feel inspired to maybe make those linkages between their art and their activism. It can be a little bit overwhelming finding things like vetted charities that are actually
Oh my
worth your
God.
time. Do you have any kind of advice for folks that might not necessarily have, the funds to start a 301c or the nonprofit or whatever, but maybe want to feel effective?
Yeah, no, 100%. I do think, and this is not a plug to myself or to other professionals that work in this space, but I do think it is so important, for you to have people around you that are well equipped to know how to vet all these institutions, nonprofits. Is certainly very difficult to navigate, but I think it's not even just like the financials thing, but also you want to know that the organization you're actually uplifting are, creating substantive change, that they are putting the money where their mouths are, and that they're focused in what you want them to focus on, right? So I think it's important for you to have professionals in this space that can properly advise you, if not to actually partner with them, but like for messaging, for, I think, especially in this age of social media where people are very impatient and everything has to kind of like turn around really quickly. It's important that people understand like nuance of language and all these things, that they know how to research and create comprehensive briefs for artists, and help them understand what's going on, give them proper impartial information and all of these things. So and it's impossible for you to expect an artist to focus on their craft and deliver everything they have to deliver, and also be an expert in every single issue area that's happening around the world. So it is important to have proper guidance and professional guidance in that. So my advice would just be to get, a professional advisor or consultant.
You can follow our guest on Instagram at PE Park. Paula, this has been awesome getting to chat with you. Here's what I ask, okay? Because we did not get as much time as I know our viewers and listeners would like to have had. If we can find an opportunity, maybe like in the next month or two, to have you back on to give you the interview that you deserve, we'd very much enjoy that, because I know there's so much that we can talk about.
Oh my God, thank you so much, Ryan. This is such a pleasure. Thank you. And I'm sorry. I apologize for all of this situation that I'm in right now, but I certainly would be my honor to be back.
I just see like the little light there, and I'm imagining her just like in like a mine with like the miner's helmet, and
Oh my God.
but whatever it takes to do the interview, we love it. Our thanks to Paula Park and Elisa Rockdock. Our thanks to producer Lauren, and our thanks to all of our viewers and listeners for checking out Break the Business. We'll see you next week.
Thank you, guys.